But sometimes we in them and we forget who we are and whose we are. So I'm just reminding you today, knowing I got a flight, that you got to make sure that you bring that. So you walk in there, man, let me back up on this a little bit. And your soul, man, is something inside. And it's churning. And you like, what's happening? But then you know what's happening because your soul is screaming out and it's saying, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. See, they're yours. They're yours. They're yours. Do you hear me? They're yours. So you walk in there, man. I am the number one determinant of the success or failure, watch this, y'all, of my, woo, they're yours. Students, they're yours. When you get back, kick some butt. And I'll see you in the winner's circle, celebrating your victory. Let's go, y'all. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Y'all got this, man. Thank you for letting me talk to y'all. Thank you. Woo!
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 223 of the AP and New Principles Academy. Let me see who we got here. We got Sharon Wright. Greetings to myself and the Queen. We got Mona Obamolak. Same thing. Greetings to myself and the Queen. I should say Sharon's from Blandon, Pennsylvania. Mona, I think, is down in Florida. Orlando. Mia Long is in the building. Yules, Texas. Dr. Rachel Edeweckett down in Maryland. Rodney Richardson, Hampton, Virginia. John Few, Chester, South Carolina. Takesha High is in Virginia. Constance Sherrod is in Mississippi. Tashika Truesdale is in Atlanta, Georgia. Hot Atlanta. We got Scott Wiley in West Virginia. Chester, West Virginia. Ronald Pugh, Cedar Hill, Texas. We got Vanessa Zeskind in Florida. We got Lysandra Brackens in North Carolina. Dr. Rella Hicks is in Augusta. Rod Laws is in the building. He said, Hotep to myself and the Queen. That means peace for those that don't know. Ancient Kemet. Hotep, back to you. Chancellor Davis is in the building. Las Vegas, Nevada. And you say happy birthday. I'm assuming you mean to yourself, right? So happy birthday to you, because mine is not till October. John Hirricks is in Denton, Texas. Dorothy Jeter. Man, my voice is sounding whack. Dorothy Jeter is in Calumet City, Illinois. That's Principal, retired Principal Dorothy Jeter. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Sheikah Houston's in the building. We just watched her. And Dr. Tammy Taylor on Create and Educate every Saturday morning at 10:30. Facebook Live. Dr. Demetrius Scott's in the building. Jocelyn down in Alabama. Jocelyn Nelson, Orlando. Melissa Jones Chunu out there in Tulsa. Jacqueline Harriet is in Nova Scotia, Canada. We got this must be my wife. See, this YouTube thing, right? It says Kimberly B. I guess that's my wife. Is that you? I never knew your YouTube channel. Yeah, the Queen is in the building. We got where we got Stacy Joy in the building. We got I Am Royalty in the building down in Charlotte. I'm going to be there tomorrow. Stacy Joseph, Houston. Where we at? Arlette Johnson out in Connecticut's in the building. I'm getting ready to get it rocking, y'all. Dr. Joe Griffin, he's going to be on the platform a little bit later. He's in the building. Got your stuff sitting right here, sir. Chris 4, 8 Laces Consulting is in the building. Southern California. Stacy Joseph. Where we at? Juan Dominguez is in the building. Yolanda McKinney is in the building. There's Josh Tovar. You're going to be able to see my fonts today, Josh. I took care of it. Asia Burnett's in the building out here in Jersey. September Daniels is here in Jersey. Man, I'm liking seeing all these YouTube logos, man. You know, this is where we at. I know it's going to be a little growing. Oh, my wife said, it's me. Yeah, she Kimberly B. Learn something new, man. 40 years. Yeah, I know it's going to be a little growing pains here with bringing all the folks over here, but that's all right. I'm willing to endure it because I just prefer to be here on YouTube. So look here, y'all. It's that time, man. Let me get it going. Let me say to everybody formally now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 223, and I might add consecutively, of the AP and New Principals Academy. Look here, y'all. I don't know about you. I don't know about you. And when I was just kind of mentally preparing today, I said I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to yell. But you know something? With the kind of week I had, I've been in a different city every day this week. I've been on a plane every night this week. I've lost sleep. I've missed meals. But I think I am going to scream on this one because I want someone to know that despite the toil, despite the hardship, despite the struggle of travel, I'm on fire! Woo! Yeah, baby. Somebody needed that, man. And I might add, my voice didn't need that, right? But somebody needed that. Because somebody, you know, I mean, life happens. You know, as we turn it into a verb, we life. And, you know, things just happen as we life together, right? So I just want to remind somebody that I'm still bringing flames, even though, you know, things like it's August. I got a flight tomorrow, man. I'm doing 5 states again next week. Pray for me. Let's go. Let me share a few things with you. Shout out the Mitchell County School System in Camilla, Georgia, man. Convocation, brand new principal. Dr. Veronica Brown, we had a great time. Shout out to all the folks out there that may be watching from Mitchell County. Shout out to Humble Middle School in Humble, Texas. I was calling it Humble all this time and didn't know that H was silent. Humble Middle School, Humble, Texas. Shout out to Tracy USD. That's out in California, not far, about an hour from San Francisco, less than an hour from Oakland. Shout out to them, and shout out to the California Private Schools Conference yesterday. Shout out to them, man. Just shout out to all the folks that I had the honor and privilege of being in their midst and just sharing a few thoughts throughout the course of the week. Welcome to all the first timers. And again, this is, you know, I think it's going to take a month, I think, growing pains of just getting accustomed to being on the YouTube platform. You know, the folks on Twitter and folks on Facebook, is probably very easy to just go to your page and there I am, and we get going. Now you got to do an extra click, that type of thing. But we'll keep working because I don't want to be on those platforms. So I'll endure the growing pains until we get the numbers back to what I'm accustomed to seeing. Beginning today, we are exclusively YouTube. Maybe that's what my man said when he said happy birthday, because this is the first day that we are only on the one platform, right? So let somebody know. Now, I'll tell you this, you can share, and I'll put it in print in a little while on the screen, but you can still share. You can share the video, the session, to your Facebook page. Just go look at the bottom where it says share, and then it'll direct you to Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Choose them all, and it'll just take them right to your page. So just do that for me. Do your brother a favor so that I can grow this platform on this new platform. For not new, but exclusively YouTube is new. So help me out. Share it to your folks. And in the process, I want to activate those algorithms. So hit the like button, please. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. right? Even if you dislike it, hit like anyway, right? And that way we activate the algorithms and we get more people to be made aware that we are here, right? Let's go real quick, as I always do. The books that accompany this platform, first, it's my baby right here, The Assistant Principal 50. So make sure if you don't have a copy, go to Amazon right now, go on a different device, or just open up another window and get your copy. Because this, if you're an assistant principal, I consider this the Bible of the assistant principalship. I really do. If you're a principal, then you need it as well because you have an assistant principal, right? So don't have them read the book. Then they get excited. They want to do all these things that they can't do because you haven't read it. So principal, get the book as well. Superintendent, get the book as well. Make sure all your district has it in terms of your principals and assistant principals. And then while there, go ahead and pick up the new one, the Assistant Principal Identity, right? That accompanies the Assistant Principal 50. And then for the principal and the aspiring principal, I might add, the Principal 50. So the aspiring assistant principal for those two I just showed you, the aspiring principal, the assistant principal, the Principal 50. You can go right to Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, ascd.org. You want to be an administrator, the aspiring Principal 50. And then lastly, is my school a better school because I lead it? I can't wait for the new one. It's going to be the best work I've ever written. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? That'll be out in December, but you can pre-order in October. Let's go. Be sure to like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. I'll be writing that commentary again in the fall. Starting in September, I'll be consistent every Sunday. I'll have my written commentary. Let me do my monologue real quick, and then I'm gonna bring up my guests. My monologue is gonna tie into our topic today. How will my leadership differ this year from last year? Once again, how will my leadership differ this year from last year? So it's the topic for our conversation with my guest, but I wanted to give my 2 cents before we jumped into it. Let's hear it. Look here, folks. For some of you, you're in the middle of the summer. You still got the whole month of August to just, take it down, rejuvenate, regroup, all that kind of thing. And of course, there's work to do, but you're not in there with students. But others of you, you've started school. There's another segment who will start this week. There's another segment who will start the week after. So we're in that season. So every week there'll be another large mass of schools that will reopen until we get to the second week of September. Then the entire country will be back in business, right? So I'm saying this to you. I want you to real quickly. I want you to think of the totality of your leadership. And I know that's probably impossible to do, but in a short period of time, but just think about your leadership, right? Just think about what that is. And think about specifically 5 areas. And maybe you want to jot this down or just rewatch this later. But think about 5 areas of your leadership where you know you could have been better than you were last year, right? For me, if someone were asked me to do that, that would be very easy for me to conjure up in my mind. Just think of 5 areas that you said, I can be better. I guess I was okay. I guess I was effective, but I wasn't optimal, right? Just think of those, then jot them down. Jot those 5 down. And then here's what I want you to do with those 5. I want you to get your journal. I'm a journal guy, like hard copy, as opposed to using my phone, tablet, or laptop. And I want you to journal what made you less than effective in those 5 areas. Now, 5, that's just a random number off the top of my head. It might be 3 for you. It might be 10 for you. Whatever works for you. But for me, I just said 5, right? So what was it about your practice, or what were the particulars that kept you from being who you needed to be, who you wanted to be within those particular 5 areas, right? So write all that out. Then write the goal for each one. What is the goal for the 24-25 school year in terms of where you want to be versus where you are now? What's the goal? But make it specific to the 5. And then lastly, what is the strategy? What's the plan? What will you do differently this year? You may need to break that down by week, by month. I'm going to leave that to you, particularly since it's a monologue. I'm not getting to all that specificity here, but break that down by category, those 5. And then what will you do differently from last year? Because last year obviously wasn't what you wanted to be relative to the 5 or the 6 or the 7 or the 1 or the 2 or the 3, whatever number you decide. And you want to get stronger there, because if you're stronger there are two people that benefit from that. Your teachers benefit and your students benefit, right? One could say, and then it impacts the world. And that's not cliche. I mean, it's real. So give attention to those 5. Give focus to those 5. Give energy to those 5. What are those 5 areas that I know I could have been stronger last year going into this year? And then map out your blueprint, because that's what it is. Your blueprint toward optimal, maximum effectiveness going into the 24-25 school year. Enough said. That's my monologue for the first Saturday in August. Let me bring up my guest and let me make sure I got this screen set up right. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. I got guests today. I didn't do that. You got someone of you. Yeah, I was going to say one of y'all got something in the background. There we go. Good morning, Dr. Johnson.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Both.
Good morning.
Good to see you both. I want the folks to know who you are. To the fam out there, I got some superstars here. I'm sure there are folks out there that know you, because I'm sure you got some of the folks that know you that are tuning in this morning. But to the fam out here that may not be familiar, let me let you know we got Dr. Lawanda Johnson in the building. She's a seasoned educational leader whose career spans an impressive 25 years in the field of education. With 11 years of experience as an assistant principal, Dr. Johnson is known for her unwavering dedication and passion for fostering academic excellence and personal growth in students. Currently serving as the assistant principal at Calhoun County High School, and now she's in another role. In St. Matthew, South Carolina, she brings a wealth of knowledge and deep commitment to her role. For the sake of our discussion, we're going to put her in that role, though. Dr. Johnson's academic journey reflects her dedication to education. She holds a bachelor's degree in English, a master's degree in school counseling, an educational specialist degree in school leadership, and a doctorate in curriculum and instruction. Her extensive qualifications are a testament to her belief that every student has untapped potential, a conviction inspired by the late Marva Collins. Dr. Johnson firmly upholds Collins' philosophy that there's a brilliant student locked inside of every child, striving every day to unlock the brilliance that make a lasting impact on her students and community. Dr. Johnson, what is your current capacity?
I'm currently an assistant principal at Calhoun County High School. That is my newly appointed school for this year. It was kind of like a 2-week turnaround thing where I accepted director of school counseling, I think, when we spoke.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, they asked me to accept the assistant principal position.
Oh, okay. So we were right, because I knew
Yes.
the last time I talked to you. Okay, I got you.
Yes.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Dr. Khalid. No, there's so many ways to say that. Give me that pronunciation one more time.
Khalid.
Yeah, Dr. Khalid Griffin is an impactful educator. He has positively influenced students in urban, suburban, and rural settings. Dr. Griffin's proven success can be identified in his versatile experience as an English teacher, assistant principal, professor. He currently serves Fort Wayne Community Schools, that's in Indiana, as urban district and more than 50 schools as the director of student and staff relations. Dr. Griffin earned a PhD in educational leadership and administration. His dissertation explores the role of double consciousness for Black students in K-12 settings. You might want to tell somebody. His qualitative study showed students' understanding of race and racial identity evolved over time, impacting their social, emotional, and physical connection to their learning environments. Dr. Griffin has spoken on local, regional, and national platforms about culturally responsive teaching strategies, cultural literacy, and the psychological and emotional perspectives of minority students. Additionally, Dr. Griffin is a leader in his community. He has spoken to various types of leaders in Fort Wayne, Indiana, including city officials, school administrators, business leaders, and business owners. And probably because this is an educational platform, he didn't have his other title, which is pastor. So I'll just throw that in there as well. And he's not even 40 years old yet, right? So he's a young brother.
Yes,
Dr. Griffin delivers thought-provoking messages on culture, morale, and vision. He is a proud and active member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. While his influence and impact are evident, his greatest accomplishment is leading and serving his family. Dr. Griffin is married to Latoya, a mental health therapist. They have 2 children, Jade and Elijah. Strong bios for both of you. Glad to have you here. Let's jump into it. I got these preliminary questions to the 2 of you that I ask all my guests, but I find myself tweaking them every week, and they're pretty much never the same. So, Dr. Johnson, I'm going to start with you. I recall, and I'm sure you recall, when we met.
Yes.
I was walking to my session at the
Yes.
SRED conference. I don't remember what city it was in, but you stopped me and we met, and we've been friends ever since.
Yes.
And I keep up with your journey on social media regularly. So when you were going through the doctorate and all those pains, I was there. I knew. But I often look at leaders and I'm trying to distinguish or identify what sets this leader apart from the pack. What makes this leader different from all these other leaders? So I'm always looking at that. I'm always studying that. And I'm very conscious of the fact that myself as a leader, I know I was distinguishable because my students I was in districts that were either all Black or predominantly Black with a smaller Latino population. So because of the composition of the student body, it made me become unapologetically African-centered in my approach as a leader and quite frankly as a teacher. And that's what distinguished me from my colleagues, the masses, right? So I'm saying all that to say this to you. Dr. Johnson, Dr. Lawanda Johnson, what is it about who you are as leader, even in an assistant principal capacity? What distinguishes you? What sets you apart from others who wear the same title, assistant principal?
Okay. What sets me apart is because even as an assistant principal, I approach my work from the school counseling perspective. And so I am an assistant principal that leads with my heart. I am that person that will sometimes go against what the discipline code says simply because I have a heart and I look at situations from every side. So I have the tendency of sometimes operating in the gray when it comes to doing things that concern students, because in the back of my mind, before an assistant principal, I'm always a counselor. And as a school counselor, I'm always in position to help students. So that is one of the things that set me apart from other assistant principals, especially when it comes to that discipline aspect, because sometimes they will operate in the black and white. But because I see things from the counselor's eye, I operate in the gray.
And it's interesting because as you explain that, and I certainly you certainly taught me something about yourself in that explanation. It allowed me to see you differently than say I saw you 5 minutes ago, because like I have certain generalizations and stereotypes about the role of the assistant principal, which I think the world knows, which is why this platform exists. But when you talked about the infusion of the counseling perspective, that shows me something very different from the relative to the role of the assistant principal. It doesn't mean that there's no one else out there that's got a counselor lens, but in terms of how you approached it, I can see that distinction.
Yes.
And so many others that I run into. Dr. Griffin, same question. What distinguishes you? And you've served in so many roles. Let's go to your principal role.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as a principal, I think it's 2 layers for me. I think the first layer, just the way I'm wired in general, I have this expression with my people that serve with me alongside me. As soon as I'm satisfied, I'm not satisfied anymore. I have the standard of excellence. I'm always trying to get better. In fact, when I was introduced to the staff that I led a few years ago to be principal, I said, we got work to do. Like, I don't believe in autopilot. My job is to take us from good to great. I think the other thing is a mindset as well. I think that there are principals, and then there are principals who are also leaders. And I think that you can be a principal, but not necessarily a leader. And what I mean by that, leadership in the most basic sense is ultimately like the degree of impact and influence for the greater good that I'm serving. Now, we know leaders can also have a negative influence, but ultimately for me, I don't want to just be positional in nature. I want to use the position to lean into the influence that I'm expected to bring to the spaces that I belong to as a leader. So what am I doing to develop those under me? What am I doing to push and challenge? What am I doing to stretch and grow those individuals I'm responsible for? What am I doing to see the 10,000 foot view and say, this is cool, but we can be better? So I think a lot of, I don't say a lot, but it's not uncommon, at least in the space that I belong to. And I would just say in general, for principals just to say, I'm the one in charge. For me, it ain't just about being in charge, it's about being a leader as well.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that stood out for me in what you said, and I think that this is good for all of us on the call this morning. You said, as soon as I feel I'm satisfied, I'm not satisfied anymore. Right. And that's me. If the day that I become permanently satisfied, I can't grow anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm content.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to grow and evolve in all aspects of life, not just the professional side, you know. So hey, somebody out there, as soon as you're satisfied, you're not satisfied. Man, I can live by that. I can live by that. You know, Dr. Griffin, I want to stay with you. Leadership, school leadership is attractive to many. There's a lot of people that want to be leaders. Man.
Yeah.
Grad schools are filled with folks, right? They talk about shortages with teachers, but there ain't no shortages with folks that want to go into administration. There may be a lot of people that want to leave it once they're in it, but it's a lot of people that want to get in there.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's attractive to a lot of people, to many, but it's not necessarily for everybody.
Right.
You know, it's
right.
Yeah, it's and people find that out once they get in there. You know,
Yes.
it's for very special people. There's a certain temperament that you got to have. So, you know, when I think about the unique challenges of school leadership, the difference between what we do as school leaders and what everyone else does as leaders in various different organizations, we lead two very different groups simultaneously.
Yeah.
Adults and children
Yeah.
at the same exact time. That takes a special person. So despite the challenges of that, my question to you, what is it about Dr. Griffin? What is it about you that convinced you that despite the challenges of school leadership, that you are built to be a school leader?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. First, let me acknowledge, if we are oblivious to the weight of being a school leader, man, I think you got to reconsider the reality before you. So for me, man, I stay in the game. I pursued it ultimately because of this. So Fort Wayne is not really a diverse city, generally speaking. You may say 15% of Fort Wayne is Black. And so in Fort Wayne Community Schools, over 50 schools, we just hired 2 Black principals. And across the whole district last year, I was the only one. And I'm saying that to say this. For me, stepping into leadership was a way for me to be a walking example for our minority population about what is possible beyond what they see on TV. Because ultimately, if I'm a student and I don't have certain things, if I'm not exposed to certain messages, if I'm not exposed to people that look like me in positions of authority or leadership, then my ceiling on what I feel is possible looking through a minority lens, it's going to be a lot lower. So for me, I leaned into it for that. And then I saw something very interesting. Not only am I walking example on what is possible for students of color, and that's what keeps me in leading a predominantly white school. I'm in real time challenging the preconceived notions to my white students and families about who we are and what's possible. So on Monday through Thursday, I turtleneck, Chelsea boots, I'm in that mug fresh. And then Friday, I'm coming in, Jay's tax out, and I'm still Dr. Griffin, like a legit Dr. Griffin. So for me, I'm a walking dichotomy on this is what I thought was possible, but I'm seeing something totally different. For me, that's enough motivation to stay in the game, but based off of those deposits and changing the trajectory for people as it relates. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with dribbling the ball, making music, but right in front of you, I'm telling you, it's possible that there's more based off what you don't see on TV.
That's some powerful stuff there. You know,
Yes.
somebody, you know, before I go to you, Dr. Johnson, with the same exact question, I just feel compelled to say this to the fam out there. There's somebody out there that may be feeling like I got to walk this tight line, right? Because you've got diversity in your building, racial diversity. But listening to what Dr. Griffin just said, he said, "Look, I'm gonna paraphrase him. This is what I heard without him saying. He said, I'm going to be me.
That's it.
I'm going to be me. I'm not playing that game, right? I'm going to be my authentic me. So when we dress down on Friday, you're going to see something that looks a little bit different, but it's still Dr. Griffin,
yeah.
right? So that person that feels challenged by that fine line, I certainly won't be reckless and tell you no, do it differently. But I will say, know that there are people out here in this work who are finding ways to stay authentic, to remain true to themselves, but to keep it professional at the same time, right? So you're not alone out there, somebody. You're not alone. Dr. Johnson, same question. How, despite the challenges, what made you know that you were built for this work?
Despite the challenges, and kind of to go in lines with the doctor here online this morning, for me, it's intrinsic. For me, I consider myself the risk taker. And I say that because I'm not afraid to ask the hard questions. I'm not afraid to say the things that need to be said. I'm not afraid to question systems that are in place. So for me, it's being that risk taker for the students that I serve. It's being that risk taker for the faculty that I serve. And not being afraid to say the unknown or to say that thing or do that thing that has not been done or has not been said. That's who I am. That's what resonates within me. And that is what has helped me to grow in this profession.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I want to stay with you, Dr. Johnson. And then we're going to transition into the talking points. But I had this question. I think about this all the time. It's an obsession of mine. The period of time between the end of the year. So in Jersey here, the end of the year would be mid to late June. And then the start of the year would be the day after Labor Day, right? In September. So for me, every year as a teacher, as a principal, as an AP, I'm going through this mental, psychological, emotional preparation for the year. It's like I'm a prize fighter and I'm in the gym training by myself, and like Mike Tyson would be in some of these dark places when he was much younger, and just in that dark place, just trying to get ready for this next fight. And every year I'm just going through this mental preparation, getting myself psyched up so that when the school year begins in September, I'm like, boom, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to take it to another level. My question to you is this, because I know everybody doesn't engage in this because I've talked to enough people to know that, but I still want to ask you, if you live, is there any kind of mental, emotional preparation that you go through that the average person wouldn't even, the people in your life wouldn't necessarily know that you're dealing with, just to be prepared to come into a new school year strong and ready to go?
Well, for me, emotionally, I'm always emotionally prepared about who's coming through that door. Where are they coming from? And so I have this book that I often read that says, if only they knew me. And it goes through the gamut of things that students go through, maybe experiencing that home that a lot of us don't often take their time or don't often think about. So in this book, it talks about that child that did not sleep last night because mom was working and they had to raise that children. In the book, it talks about that child that didn't sleep last night because they didn't have anything to eat. So they could not sleep because they were hungry. And so oftentimes I'm thinking about the beginning of the year. How do I share this book with my faculty and staff and get them to thinking about the numerous things that our students experience at home that we must be prepared for? But because until the social aspects of children are met, learning can sometimes be difficult. Yeah. So when they come in the morning, it's okay to have a space that's called a cool down space for them, because you may have that child coming to you did not sleep last night. So they may come in and they may come in your classroom sleepy. So I tell them, if a child falls asleep in your classroom, have a conversation with them, foster a relationship with them. Go back to the book that I shared with you at the beginning of the year, because these are some of the things that our students may be experiencing. And until we can meet the social, the total child, learning is at a loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I hear you loud and clear. Dr. Griffin, same question.
So can you just paraphrase or shorten it?
Yeah, just the between the end of the year, yeah, and the start of the next year, the mental preparation for the forthcoming school year. Is there anything that you do differently during that time that just gets you ready to go into that school for the next 10 months?
I got you. Yeah. So there's a personal element, then there's a professional element for me. And I'm a big culture guy, big on climate. So on a personal level, especially with my added responsibilities within the community, when I detach, man, I detach. I actually have 2 phones. One of them is like just 10 contacts, and that's my immediate family. So I unplug to make sure that I'm giving those, my first ministry, if you will, my undivided attention. So different points of the summer, I'm unplugged for days, sometimes weeks at a time. On a professional level, particularly so there's what we do school-wide at the end and at the beginning of the year, where we take a load off and just connect as people. I think one of the unintended consequences of standardized tests and just the challenges navigating education is we're always on, or we're always professional mode, and we engage in that transactional element of I'm principal, you're student, I'm principal, you're teacher, you're counselor. And so what I do, man, big picture, with my whole staff, there are moments where we just kick back as human beings. And then with my leadership team, we are very intentional about let's just kick it outside of we're not necessarily friends per se, because I think there has to be a line of demarcation. But I do create a space where, hey, let's just kick back on a Friday night at the end of the year and just laugh and joke and just, hey, what are our summer plans? And then on the front end in August, when leaders came back, go out to lunch on me, y'all. Let's have a great year. And that was so valuable to my previous leadership team that they say, hey, Dr. G, can we do this once a month? Just my counselors, my APs. And we went out, once a month, and they really, really enjoy being able to connect as human beings. So when we do the work on Monday, there's more than just a transactional element.
Yeah. Wow.
Awesome. Good and I would like to add to that. One of the things that I do along those lines from the personal side of things is I love to travel. So each summer I make sure that I travel someplace internationally, and I just like to sit beside the water and collect my thoughts. And anyone that knows me, they will ask me, well, Dr. Johnson, where are you headed to now? Because they know that traveling is where I go to get away and recollect my thoughts and come back into the work.
Yeah. And I see you on those travels too on social media. I'm one that loves my little spots in the Caribbean and just go to the same spots over and over, because that's just what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Good stuff. Let's transition. Let's delve into these talking points and this topic of how will my leadership differ this year from last year. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put your talking points one by one on the screen, and then I just want you to tell us what you're talking about here, and then I'm gonna have some follow-up questions to go with them. So Dr. Johnson, you said exposure is key and very necessary in the home and in the academic environment.
Yes. What I mean by that is exposure is a cornerstone of education. When we expose our students, oftentimes they get those experiences that they will not get from any book or any piece of paper that you put in front of them. It allows them those transferable skills that they can take with them for a lifetime. So that is why I feel that it is necessary in school as well as in the home.
So thinking about our topic, how will next year or this year coming now differ from last year? I want you to let me take that off the screen, and we go back to exposure's key and very necessary. So let's say there's fam out there right now, and they say, yeah, I hear Dr. Johnson, man, exposure. Whether I be assistant principal, whether I be principal, whether I be teacher who's watching or aspiring leader, and I've concluded my students, they're not getting the exposure that they need. They're not getting exposure to what are the job, the career possibilities that are out there, for example. So like I always worked in the urban areas. So the big four where was basketball, but for my guys, basketball, football, hip hop, or making a mark in them streets, right? So but then beyond that, I had so many young people until we gave them the exposure that didn't know what the possibilities are. And we know that hasn't changed. It's the big four is still very real, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
so my question to you, what do you say to the fam out there that's saying, I need to make sure that my students are fully exposed to what's going on out there as well? What advice do you have for them?
The advice that I give is to make sure that you are tapping into their talents, and then you are exposing them to the opportunities where they can expound on their talents that they currently have. One might say, we don't have the resources, but as educators, we get out there and we find the resources so that we can provide these opportunities for our students to be exposed in things other than their community or academics other than what's inside the building. I believe that when students are allowed to get out of their environment and tap into some of the things that are in the world, experiences matter the most.
Experiences matter the most. So let me I'm gonna stay with you a little bit longer. We got leaders on here, and the bottom line is that, this is something I talk about on this platform all the time, that if we don't create a culture, establish a culture in that school collectively where we as leaders are beyond disciplinarians, beyond supervisors of cafeterias, then we really don't know what's happening in our classrooms beyond theoretical, right? Because we're not in them. So let's say that as leaders, we know conceptually that students need exposure if they're going to maximize their potential and in fact find their uniqueness, their own talents. But I'm not in the classroom to be able to see that carried out. So I can't even give my input outside of a staff meeting, which is abstract because I don't have real data in terms of being in the classroom. What do you say to that leader that's watching right now that knows that the bulk of their day is non-classroom, non-instructional, it's administrative, it's discipline, it's this, it's that, but it has nothing to do with teaching and learning? What do you say to that leader as far as exposure is concerned, relative to being able to be in the classroom to see that being carried out?
Got to find the time. We've got to find the time to get into those classrooms. We've got to meet the students where they are. If the students are at the basketball games, then that is where we need to be. If the students are at the football games, then that is where we need to be. Making sure that we're getting to know those students and then tapping into those students from any and every avenue possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to find the time, got to make the time, got to move differently from how we do. And if that culture is what's the impediment, then that culture needs to be closely examined to figure out how to make us available to be the leaders that we want to be. Did you want to weigh in at all on that one, Dr. Griffin?
Yeah, I think just also to encourage leaders, because the grind, the day-to-day, a starting point. Hey, can I start with a department and meet with them on a bi-weekly basis to start. Because what we're getting at is that culturally responsive element, being intentional. For me, it was starting with the department and then eventually a grade level. And then eventually the whole staff got my time every 2 weeks for 20 minutes at a time by department. 6th grade science and math, we met together for 20 minutes every 2 weeks. 6th grade language arts and social studies, we met together every 2 weeks. Start somewhere. It may not necessarily, you can't boil the ocean per se, but start somewhere with a team of teachers to find that rhythm, get some momentum, and quite frankly, some credibility, and push those teachers out front to say, hey, we've been working on this for 9 weeks now, and this is some good stuff.
Love it. Love it. Hey, somebody out there, hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button, share this YouTube session over to your Facebook network, your Twitter network, or X, or your LinkedIn network. Let them know we ain't go nowhere. We just on YouTube now, but we're still here. There's probably folks out there in the wilderness saying, Kafele must be busy today. He's not on. No, he busy. He's on here, but he's on YouTube exclusively. Let me go to Dr. Griffin. You said here, cultural agility as educators, making the distinction between culturally different and socially inappropriate.
Yeah.
That's a heavy one. What are you saying to us?
So, man, this is a loaded one. And this is the work I get to tackle every day. In a majority district, where about 60% of our kids are Black and brown in Fort Wayne, but we got 90% of our teachers are white.
Remind them of your current title in that context.
Yeah. So my current title is the Director of Student and Staff Relations. So anything regarding culture and climate of a building, especially a culture and climate that locks specific groups out. So culture is what's normal in a space, what's acceptable. Climate is what that space feels like. So if it's normal for us to say, you from this neighborhood, as long as we got the majority of our kids passing or behaving, it's fine. We expect you not to perform. So just addressing that and just showing up in spaces and saying, well, that's not how we should move. So what the message and that's on the screen here, man, I think a lot of times, I'm gonna say Black, white, brown, rich, poor, we tend to make assessments or judgment through what's called an ethnocentric lens. That lens is typically what I deem as normal, what I deem as acceptable is the standard across the board for what I apply to everyone. So if I am a Black man, for example, but I'm in a suburban in a context, a white suburban context, what's normal to me culturally may not align with the sense of normalcy in the context that I'm in, but it doesn't mean the other person is socially inappropriate or wrong. A very basic example, there are groups or demographics where if I'm correcting you or redirecting you out of respect, I'm gonna drop my head because I honor you. Mm-hmm. That's not inappropriate. In our Western civilization, eye contact is a sign of respect. So because it's culturally different, it doesn't mean that it's socially inappropriate. I would take it a step further too. Those things that that flirt with the line of it makes me uncomfortable, that may not be socially inappropriate either. It's just different. So I think that understanding that we all have to navigate this ethnocentric lens that says this is normal to me, but it not necessarily maybe normal to everybody. And when I feel that way, what am I doing to use this as an opportunity to learn more about the world around me through my students' reality and experiences?
Wow. So here we got this, we got leadership on the call, and leadership invariably, or maybe that's too strong of a word, often will have teachers in the building who, for the first time in their lives, they're around people who don't look like them over a sustained period of time.
Yeah.
Right. That you could be around people that don't look like you, passing one another in the mall, in the supermarket, at the stadium, at the arena, that type of thing, at the concert, at the sporting event. But in terms of now, it's this ongoing daily interaction with people that I've never had daily interaction with, but they're children. So if my initial exposure is to these children, these third graders, these fifth graders that don't look like me, then the conclusion is probably, then I don't know the community, not just the babies.
Right.
So my question to you then, and feel free to weigh in as well, Dr. Johnson. My question to you, what do you say to the leaders on the call right now who have teachers in the building who are culturally unfamiliar,
Yeah.
racially unfamiliar with the community upon which, in this case, the students that they teach, but yet have to make those connections with those teachers, with those students. What are your thoughts?
I would say creating, again, I'm using the word culture very deliberately here, meaning what is normal in that space, creating a space where it's normal or part of the culture to reflect, creating a culture where it's okay to extend grace to ourselves and extend grace to each other. This is a question that I gave to my predominantly white staff. There were 0 Black teachers when I got there, and then when I left, there were 3 Black teachers, which I was very proud of that. But ultimately, this is a question I asked them. I said, the phrase, I said, how many are familiar with the phrase, I don't see color? So everybody, raised their hand. And then I said, let's peel that back, because this is a problematic phrase. What's the spirit of the thought? What's the spirit of the phrase? Well, the spirit of the phrase is that I want to treat all my kids fairly. I want to treat all my kids with a sense of love. Okay, great. But what happens when we don't see that? And now we're reflecting. What happens when I fail to see a significant component that makes that student who they are, i.e. the color of their skin? What happens? So now it's not about rebuke. It's not about condemnation. It's about, let's sit in that question for a little bit. Let jot some ideas down, turn and talk. And there's no wrong answer, but I want us to be honest. The only wrong answer is one that's false, one that's not true, one that's deflecting what we're trying to do. So, but I had to take the lead on, let's create a space where it's normal to reflect and be introspective without judging. Because I think that's the thing, man. Like, we live in a culture, unfortunately, where, and I'm sorry, my passion is shining through, I'm sure, man. I'm excited. But we live in a culture where if I make a mistake, then that means I'm anti. No. It means that I've made a mistake, and that mistake can be genuine, but I need the grace to want to try to get better. That has to be a part of what's normal in the spaces we belong to as educators.
So,
and I think, okay, I'm sorry.
No, you got it.
And I think it goes back to intentionality. We have to be intentional about making sure that these classes are cultural relevant. And when students come in, they can see themselves in the learning process. But it all goes back to intentionality and planning.
See themselves in the learning. How do I embrace something that I don't feel that I'm a part of? Right. So let me throw this at both of you then. So I have to believe that there's a leader on here right now, either live or we'll see the video later, or just someone out here in the world that doesn't even know that Kafele was born. But the experiences are the experiences. And this particular leader says or feels, this conversation with my staff, if I engage my staff in this conversation, I may be on the unemployment line. Looking for a job. This is too explosive. It is too sensitive for me to engage my staff, particularly when my staff is of the collective mindset that I do not see race. I do not see color. I just see the children. I know that leader exists because I meet that leader throughout America, right? I won't meet that leader in all aspects of America, but I do meet that leader in certain parts of America. How does that leader, what are your thoughts on how that leader navigates that space? Because the conversation is so necessary.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say, going back to a point I made earlier, addressing in pockets first. Creating a sense of, hey, can I, you've been thinking about this, and I noticed you move this way. You're good at relationship building. You've come to me before. Start somewhere. Start with 1 or 2 teachers. Start with 3 teachers, and figure out how can we use this opportunity between the 3 of us, the 2 of us, to build momentum. I think doing nothing. I don't think that's an option. But to say I've started with, and if you're at a secondary level, if you start with 2 teachers, depending on the size of that school, now you're dealing with anywhere between 275 to 400 kids, depending on how many periods a day you have. If you have an elementary school, you're talking anywhere between 40 to 60 kids, depending again on the size of that school. But to do nothing, that's not an option in my mind. We live in such a polarized society. And despite how polarized it is and feels, I do believe there are opportunities at the building level to start with those people who are at least on the fence for trying to do the work.
Anything, Dr. Johnson, you good?
Me, it takes knowing your who in the building, and then you create a system for being able to have that conversation with the people that you serve.
Yeah. So let me say to the fam out here before I move on to the next one. If there's someone out there and that's a tough conversation to have, then obviously you want to sharpen your people skills, because it's an unavoidable conversation. Because if that conversation is not had, and there are students in classrooms where their racial, cultural, ethnic identity has been suppressed so that the teacher can feel comfortable, then the youngster is the one that loses out, because we pretended that that youngster is not who that youngster is. Right? If like I'm sitting on the screen right now, I'm not a generic host of the AP and New Principals Academy. I'm a Black man host. That's my identity, right? And I don't want to pretend for the sake of having a viewership that I'm generic. No, I'm a Black guy, right? I'm a Black guy with a YouTube channel, right? And that's a part of my identity. And I wear that identity on my sleeve. That's who and what I am. And that should not be a problem. So in a classroom with a youngster that brings a certain racial, cultural, ethnic identity, we don't want to suppress that. We want to accentuate it.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate.
Yes.
We want to acknowledge it. So teacher got to get out of your feelings, as they would say.
Yep.
But leader, that's who's on the call right now. Leader, you have to have the audacity to engage teachers in conversation, but you got to know how to talk to the folks.
Right.
It ain't, oh man, I listened to Dr. Griffin, Dr. Johnson, and Kafele, and I'm fired up. Bam! I can't wait till I get back in it. No. Pump the brakes. You got to be delicate with it. Right?
It's all about approach.
Once you sending me no email, I watched it, session 223, Kafele, and now I'm looking for a new job. No, we ain't trying to do that, right? So you got to finesse it, right? Until you've built a culture, and this is important. As you develop that culture for it, now you can have the very difficult conversations, because you're they're prepared, they're ready for it, right? They're acclimated to what you have created here. You've led the effort. So keep that in mind. Let's go. Let me go to this next one here. This good conversation. We talking about what you going to do differently, somebody, that from last year going into the new year. And this, what we just discussed, might be something that I got to stop being timid about this conversation. I got to jump into this. So Dr. Johnson, you said, a positive school climate is essential to the academic process, and I'm with you wholeheartely. What are you saying?
Yes. What I'm saying here is that in order for students to learn, in order for them to be engaged, in order for academic achievement to increase among students, the school climate must be positive. And what I mean by that is students cannot go to school every day worrying about bullying, worrying about fighting, because that lessens their bandwidth and their chances of learning, because they are so much is on them about fighting, or who's going to fight today, or this person is bullying me. So as leaders, we must put things in place to assure that the climate of our schools are positive at all times. And this requires us working toward that every day.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, as you spoke, I started thinking about students. I don't know that I have specific students in my head, but just a category of students. And that category of students, I'll say, are those students who feel emotionally unsafe in their building for various different reasons, whether it be their appearance, their facial physical features, their hair texture or length, their attire, their sneakers, their body type, what their sexual orientation, whatever it is. So when I think about what you just said, what do you say to the leader about increasing the probability that all students in the building are emotionally safe and secure in that space that's under your assistant principal, so it's under your leadership along with the rest of the leadership team.
That you put those systems in place. And, as leaders, we've got to work at it every day, because this work will not happen overnight. But we've got to make sure that every day that we come into that building, that we are working and we are establishing systems and we're putting routines in place to assure that our students come to school feeling safe. And I can even refer to myself as an adult. If I'm placed in a situation where I don't feel emotionally and physically safe, I shut down. And if I, as an adult, do that, let's think about the child that's placed in that situation and what they would do.
When you said that as an adult, you took me somewhere. I'm for a living for over the past 13 years. I'm a speaker and a consultant. That's what I do. But I gotta tell you, I gotta tell the fam out here, I gotta tell you, I'm not safe everywhere I go. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm safe in most places that I go. But there are other places, like there was a place that I don't mind saying publicly. I won't identify the district, but there was a place that I spoke here in Jersey that I was so emotionally unsafe. I had a long-term contract with this district. It was very good money. And I said to the person after my first day, I said, you can rip that contract up and you can put it in the garbage. I'm not coming back. They pleaded for me to come back, but I was not emotionally safe in the room, right? It was so much hostility, racial hostility. And that was the reason they invited me, because they were aware of the hostility. But I said, nah, I don't want to deal with this hostility.
Yeah.
You not unless you have me with some very small groups, but you got me in here with 1,000 people and I'm gonna deal with hostility. Oh no, we done. Goodbye. So as you said, even as adults, we can be in situations that just emotionally, these are not safe. These are not good for our spirit, for our well-being. That was not good for me. So then, but you and I are rational adults. Now let's look at children who are in environments where they may not even be able to express it. And quite frankly, could be in environments where if they do express it, then there could be physical consequences, right? So I can't tell you how uncomfortable, how brutal it is to be in this classroom every day, how brutal it is to be in this school every day, how brutal it is to walk into the restroom every day, because there will be consequences that come my way. So, and I'll throw this at the two of you, because I said we'll jump in on each other, so that you can jump in on here. What about that kid that walks into a school where it's a nightmare, but nobody knows it? It's the worst time of the day. Nothing's going to happen to me physically, but emotionally, I hate it here. What do you say to that leader that's on the call right now?
I think that's all the more reason why we got to lead with relationship building first and foremost. Relationship building, there's so many ways to go about doing it. When we're in the hallways monitoring passing period, are we just hallway monitors, or are we actively engaged to make those deposits to start the year? That leader out there, you getting ready to start, don't open a book for the first few days. Like empower, provide resources for those teachers to do community building activities, get to know your students. Every now and again, this true story, when you became PK, Principal Kafele, I had one of my former babies in the room. She's 25, 26 now. She's a therapist in the district. Had her as a freshman and then again as a junior 12, 13 years ago. And she still remembers something that I did called Let's Talk About It Thursday as an English teacher, where I turned the desk around. I sat on top of the desk for the first 10 minutes. Let's talk about it Thursday. We're not opening a book yet. We're not learning yet. What's going on? Like, those are the types of things that we can do within the reality of our classroom. You have to be empowered to do that by the leader. But all of that, those are low lift ways to build relationships, to maximize the number of students that we meet, that we connect with.
Yeah, I love it.
And along those lines, even me as an assistant principal, my doors are always open to students. So I would say to that leader out there, Get to know your students. When you're in the cafeteria, observe your students.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, I would have students that I don't want to go into that classroom, or a teacher would call, this child needs to leave my classroom. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what is it in this classroom that is not safe for the child?
Yeah.
So I create spaces in my environment, in my office, for students to come in, sit with me, talk with me, letting them know that I care. I'm always a resource, because I always want them to want to get up in the morning and come to school. So as a leader, I know that it must be safe for them.
Yeah. So to the fam out there, I'll remind you of our topic today. How will my leadership differ this year from last year? So when you look at this particular bullet point, a positive school climate is essential to the academic process. Think about your leadership last year. Are you satisfied with the prevailing climate? Or is there something about the climate of this building, and I'll just throw another word with it, the culture of this building, that we need to adjust this, we need to evolve this, we need to tweak this, we need to make this better, because there are young people in this building, there are adults in this building who are not benefiting? Or was last year's climate, last year's culture conducive to everything that you set out to do? Right. So think about that as you transition into a new school year. Are you going to bring an old culture, an old climate that was less than conducive or toxic even, into the new school year, but yet expect different results? Right. Typically that doesn't happen. I guess they call that insanity. Right. So let's make sure that that we're looking at it in terms of climate last year versus what we're going to do going into the new school year. And I might add this. I tell this to America all the time when I'm on the road, but I'll say it here. This word climate, it's one of my words. It's like, I got my list of like my favorite words in education, and climate is certainly right there at the top of the list. But I gave it my own definition. I don't use the scholarly definitions at all. I don't even remember them anymore. I use my own. And my definition for climate is a four-letter word, MOOD, mood. What is the mood of this school?
Yeah.
What is the mood of this classroom? What is the mood of this staff meeting? Right? What is the mood of this cafeteria? Right? So if the mood ain't right, because you think about people that we know, individuals, people that we're close to, and we notice we know their tendencies, but then there's a certain day that this person is not themselves. So the first thing we ask, what's wrong? Right? Because the mood is so different. Well, now that person's not themselves. Well, if the school mood is not what we need it to be, then that school's not going to be what we want it to be, right? So we got to check the mood. So that's my word, climate, because of that meaning, the mood. MOOD, y'all. Let's go. Let's go. Where we are, Dr. Griffin, navigating double consciousness. Before you go. When I saw this, folks, I went right to my little library in here, and I pulled off my book, The Souls of Black Folks, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, the first African-American to graduate from Harvard University with a PhD in 1895, right? So that double consciousness talk, let's get into it a little bit. It's coming out of this book.
Yeah.
Souls of Black Folk. If you have if you haven't read this book yet, then it's time to go to Amazon and get your copy. If you got one of them notions right now, oh, I read that back in undergrad school. What was that, 20 years ago? Time to reread it and see how it applies to 2024-25. It's going to mean something very different now. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, this is something that I've been passionate about for a long time, man. And I'm gonna be honest, despite the confidence and comfort that I alluded to earlier and how I move and navigate the spaces that I'm in, it's still very much a weight that I have to navigate. And for those of us who don't know what double consciousness is, I don't want to undermine anyone's intellect or whatever, but I guess this is my own little flavor. Ultimately, there's who I am, and there's who I'm very comfortable being, but then there's this acknowledgement that society wants me to be something else. And it emanates out of this thought that Black culture and Black people, particularly historically, and I would say to a degree today, have been viewed as problematic. So for me, I would be lying if I said there weren't still aspects, even with the PhD, the credibility, the influence, there's still aspects of my, what I call preferred consciousness that I leave at the crib. There are aspects of my preferred consciousness that I leave in the car. Now, it's something that I've learned to ultimately, depending on the mood, the climate of where I am, or what needs to be done, you know what? I'm gonna just shoot straight, and I'm gonna give it to the folks like it is. And then there are those times where using strategy, and ultimately slow and steady wins the race. The thing that I found interesting is seeing students of color not know that this is what they're wrestling with and the implications of that. So if all my teachers don't look like me and I'm projecting a preferred consciousness, this is how I define conflict within this context. Conflict is when two cultural worlds are clashing. That's really what it is. So I walk into a class where I'm trying to operate in a preferred consciousness because I don't understand the rules of the game. And so me justifying, me cracking, me joking is considered disruptive conduct. Leave. So to ultimately know that that's what they're wrestling with and not put a name to it, man, it's a unique spot for me as a person of color, as a leader of color who always is still navigating this, but giving those deposits to my students about time and place. Not wrong. I'm not trying to extinguish this aspect of your identity, but understanding time and place.
Wow. So let's go further with it. So here I am, the leader.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, let me put a different spin on it. I'm the leader, and I've got this diverse staff, and that's inclusive of my superiors and other colleagues in central office. How do I operate?
Yeah.
Through this double consciousness and feel good about me.
Yeah.
And what I do every day.
Dr. J, can I answer this first, please?
You sure can.
Man, look, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like, hey, we here. I'm gonna keep it at a buck with you. I'm operating that preferred consciousness if I can.
Yeah.
I am very strategic about throwing things out there. I'll give you a quick example. We had conversations around like cell phones, headphones, or whatever. And what if a student doesn't, give it over? And then I said to the teachers, I said, at this point, students know what we're about. They know the expectation. We communicate on the front end. And then I deliberately said in front of my whole staff, here's what I'm gonna say to that student: run them headphones. And the confusion on their face. So I'm deliberately utilizing language vernacular that identifies with my preferred consciousness. So I said it again. I threw it out there on purpose. I could easily say, I need to confiscate those headphones. Hey, please hand me your, no. I'm going to deliberately say, for their learning, for their broadening their perspective on who I am and what it means to be appropriate and inappropriate. Again, culturally different doesn't mean socially inappropriate. So I said it again. If a student, run them headphones, run that phone. And so those kinds of things, I wouldn't do it all every meeting. I wouldn't do it regularly, but occasionally I'll just drop a little something in there that reflects who I am. And again, I'm still Dr. Griffin. Don't get it twisted. I'm qualified to be here. I'm not a token. Nobody threw me a bone. We're going to see impact. Even though I'm throwing it out there, don't get it twisted. It's still Virgil Khalid Griffin, PhD. And this is who I am.
Yeah, wow. Powerful stuff. Did you want to jump in, Doc? Dr.
No,
Johnson?
sir, he hit it on the head.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm just reflecting as you speak, and I'm thinking about me as principal, me as teacher. I had a situation I'll share with the fam. I may have said this in a few years back on this platform. I don't know. But I had a situation where I had colleagues that didn't understand my Afrocentricity with my students. But that was me just being me. I just wanted to be me. So I exposed them to a lot of information beyond curriculum as it related to our history. So I will never forget one year with this particular class. This is The Miseducation of the Negro, one of the old copies. You won't find this one nowhere. And I made photocopies because it's in public domain. So you know you're not robbing anybody of any money because no one owns the rights to this book. So I made photocopies and gave them to the students, and they walked around with them proudly. They had them in clear covered folders. So one of the teachers, who was not Black, saw them and read a little bit of it, and she came into my room. I was a 5th grade teacher. And she slammed the folder on my desk and said, "You're teaching racism."
Mm.
And I stayed me in that conversation. And I was to be appointed assistant principal the next week.
Mm.
So now do I merge? Do I morph into this other guy so that I can protect this thing I've been working for the past 2 years at grad school, to now I'm going to be assistant principal at a different building? Or do I remain me? Right? So now I got that double consciousness going on. And I said, in a split second, I'm going to respond to her as Baruti Kafele, not as an imposter. And I did. And it got ugly. And I went to my principal and I said to her, I said, "I guess I blew my career, huh?" And she said, "No, sir. I support you. So don't worry about it." I said, "Thank you, Doc." And I share this with you and the fam right now for this reason. That was in 1997. It's 2024 now. Had I responded any other kind of way, I would still be sitting here in real time, regretting it, questioning myself, questioning my authenticity. But I can go to that mirror and say, I defended them kids, and I defended my principal. I let my primary conscience do the talking. See? So to the fam out there, because I can't be reckless on this platform, I'm not asking you to be me in these regards, or my guests. You got to figure it out for you. But I do want to reinforce what Dr. Griffin's been saying, that double consciousness is real. And it's particularly real when we work in these organizations, these districts, in these leadership capacities, because there's this fine line that we got to walk every day. But John Lewis said it best: good trouble. So I stayed in good trouble. You know, anybody that knows me here in Jersey could tell you that. I stayed in good trouble, and it makes it so that I can go to this mirror every day and feel really good about myself, right? But that double consciousness is real. Any further thoughts on that, anybody?
Just an observation, when you were here, to see in real time, man, you navigating, and it was funny, and I guess for those who listen, I feel there's some, and you know what it does to those who are watching, how it empowers us to see you say, "Oh, I said IB. Are we cool with IB?"
Yeah.
The response from the people of color in the room, how we literally leaned in.
Yeah.
I don't know if you paid attention to how vocal we became. So think about for a moment, when we have the courage, again, using wisdom, being prudent about how we do it, when we do it. Think about what that does to other staff, to our students, when they see, "Oh, I can identify with that. That's authentic. That's me." So when you did that, how the whole experience changed for some of us, it empowered us. And that was dope to see in real time.
I love that. And you know, one of the things I love, Doc, is that a lot of the Black audience will come up to me as individuals.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll tell me, like, "Man, I like the way you do it, man.
Yeah.
I like how you roll." Right? I mean, I hear that all the time. You know, some of them want to be speaker. I want to be like you, Doc. You know, they call me Doc, even though I don't have a doctor. I want to be like you, man. I want to do it like, I want to just get up there and just be natural. And that's, you know, that's how I do it. And I made a decision long ago. If I can't be natural with it,
yeah,
if I can't operate out of my primary conscious, then I don't want to do this, because I'm gonna be stressed on them stages, man.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm doing that, like y'all saw the video before that oh yeah, I want to be able to go places and do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like, oh man, people might be like, that's a little over the top. He yelling at the top of his lungs. No, I want to be able to do that. and just because that's being me.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to now, let me not bring that kind of energy because they may not want me to come here anymore. You know, that's you know, any national conference. That's how I close. You know, that's what and everybody knows that now. You know, but yeah. So it's so much to be said there. Let me keep going, y'all. Hey, y'all. Once again to the YouTube family, which is who we are now. Again, let me put this on the screen for you because I know we going through some growing pains. I know it. But you can still share the video, which I'm going to say the live stream. It'll be video once we sign off, but you can still share it. Just click that share button that you see on the screen, and you can share it to all your networks: Facebook, Twitter, and X. LinkedIn. You can share it to them. You can hit that like button as well. You can do all the things you used to do on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. It's just that it looks a little bit different, but it's the same thing. So do your brother a favor and share it to your networks. Let them know, because you know my mission. You know, I do a lot of work in the world, but the most important work that I do, to me, is the Saturday Academy, the AP and New Principals Academy. This is the most important. This is the most fulfilling work that I do of all the work I do. I love what I do. I get paid good money to do what I do. I don't get paid to do this, but this is the most fulfilling work that I've ever done. In terms of the public stuff. I don't mean being a teacher and a principal, but I mean in terms of what I do publicly, this is the most fulfilling. So let the folks know. And then also, if you're watching on a phone or a tablet, then click the, if you want to be a part of the live chat, click the open app button at the top of the screen, and then it'll open your app. And then when you watch it on the app, you can be a part of the live channel, the live chat. If you're watching on a computer or a laptop, then you don't have to go through that. The live chat is right on the right-hand side of your screen. But if you're on the phone or a tablet, you got to be in the app. So just click open app on the page, and the app will pop up, and then you can be a part of the live chat. All right, let's go. Let me get back to where I was. And here we are, I think. Yeah. So Dr. Johnson, you said parent-school relationships are very critical to the academic success of students. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I can't tell you the volume of people who ask me for strategy on how do we get parents engaged in the process. What are you saying to us?
What I'm saying is that parents are our students and their children's first teachers. And as an academic system, it is important that we share that relationship with both the parent and the student. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I've worked in a school where we've had a huge population of ESOL students. Some of them spoke very little English at all. When parents came into the building, they spoke no English. So we had to end up getting a translator for them. So with that parent-school relationship, some of the same skills that we're teaching their students to try to help them learn the English language, let's bring those parents into the schools and create parent universities or systems where the same things that their students are getting, parents are able to get that as well. Another thing, with my dissertation work, you know, I'm an educator at heart. So my dissertation centered around a subject that I'm not even passionate about, which is math. And it's how to increase South Carolina SC ready, career ready test scores in South Carolina. And some of that research said that our students don't do well in math because their parents didn't do well in math. So when I say parent-school relationships, when parents know those math processes, they're more apt to help their students with those math processes. So as we're teaching students this new way of doing math, let's have those parent universities to bring parents in, teach them those new ways of doing math as well, so that they can go back home and in the community and be a resource and a support to their students.
So Dr. Johnson, I'm in an audience, and you're the breakout session presenter, and I'm loving your message. So then when the Q&A comes up, I raise my hand and you call on me, and I ask you, I say, you know, Doc, I want to do everything you said, but I can't access the parents. What do I do to access them so that, and let me put this back on the screen here. Give me a second, so that I can create those parent schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's right now, I don't have access to the volume of parents that I want to that I need to have access to. What do you say?
Okay. I say we've got to go to those places where we know the parents are. We know that parents are coming to sporting events. We know that if parents are coming to any place where you're giving out something for them, for their families and their children, the parents will be there. So when parents come to those settings, that would be the opportunity for leadership to share with them information about the school, strategic plans, share parent university information with the parents, and let them know the purpose of these initiatives in the school. And then you invite them into school, and then you get kind of personal with them, and you let them know, hey, I'm going to be reaching out to you about this information that I'm sharing with you today. And if you don't hear from me, then you reach out to me. Come to the school, because I want you to be a part of this learning process. I think that when we take genuine concern and interest in parents, and they feel that, then they're more apt to come into the schools. Because just like students have a voice and want voice, our parent voices, they matter also.
Yeah, yeah. You know, the person on the screen here, Dolores Wallace, awesome way to connect with students, giving them voice. She was my parent coordinator at a middle school that I was principal at, and she was phenomenal at what she did. She's the best. So when I left my district to go to another district, you know who I brought with me. I brought
Yes.
the parent coordinator, Dolores Wallace. So she stayed with me for, I guess it was 6 years when I went to the new school. So those schools that have do your schools have parent coordinators?
Yes.
Yeah, so those schools that have parent coordinators, then it takes a lot of that weight off of our shoulders, and then we can rely on them, particularly when their full-time position is parent coordinator, right? So or parent liaison, as some districts will call them. Yeah, so good stuff. Did anything you want to weigh in, Dr. Griffin?
No, I everything she said, especially the point about just going to where they are. I think that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, and instead of waiting for them to come to us, we
Right.
go to you. We know where you are.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll go there. We know that you're gonna be at that game. We know you're gonna be at that evening concert. You know, whatever it is, we know you're gonna be there, right? But we also know some of the places you're gonna be in the community. So we got that as well. Let's go. Let me go to this next one. We're getting close to the end, y'all. Where are we at? Number 6. Dr. Griffin said, understanding the difference. This is a big one here. The difference between culture and climate, and what that means for staff and students. What are you saying to us here?
Yeah, obviously we've hit on this already, but I think as leaders, it's important to know not necessarily what we want to be normal in the space, but what actually is normal in that space, and then how does that overlap or bleed into what that space feels like. As leaders, that's on us. If we come in and we're short and we're transactional, if we're moody, that inevitably is going to bleed into how office staff operates, how administrators operate, how teachers treat their students. And so we use those terms interchangeably, but they're different. As you said, climate is mood, climate is the way it feels, but culture is what is normal. How is it that I walk into a space and it's normal, it's acceptable, that depending on the neighborhood you're from, your reality, we just brush you, that's normal. So understanding the difference between the two and the implications of that, and what that means for people's expectations from a student perspective and a staff perspective.
Yeah, I tend to call it, and synonymously with you, I tend to call it the lifestyle of the building.
Yeah,
the lifestyle of the school. This whatever that is that's going on right now in real time. There's the culture.
Yeah.
Right. So the question becomes: is this the culture we want it to be?
Right.
Is this conducive to high academic performance? So let me go to the fam then. Hey fam, the topic: how will my leadership differ this year from last year? So let's look at the culture, right? The normal, the prevailing normal, right? The lifestyle, the way we're living right now in real time is what you left last year. Is that what you want going into next year? Or is there something very different? Or is there something somewhat different? Whatever it is it something different that you imagine for the school next year? Hey, assistant principals on the call right now, particularly those of you in urban and rural districts, did you spend your days dealing with discipline and lunch duty and bus duty? Was that the bulk of your day? Is that what you're trying to carry into next year? Did you go to grad school to be a full-time disciplinarian, to be a full-time, to supervise cafeterias for 1, 2, 3, 4 periods, to load buses and therefore have to get out of the building before the last period was over so that you can be prepared to load the buses and therefore miss some of the last period in the building? Is that what you envision for as a leader when you were preparing to become a leader? Well, the reason that you're that person right now is because of, as Dr. Griffin said, the normal. So that is your normal right now. So going into next year, how will you change your normal? How will that normal look different from the prevailing normal of right now?
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, let's go. We move right into the next one. I've been waiting for this one too. I've been really waiting for this one, Dr. Johnson, where you said you quoted Marvin Collins out of Chicago. There's a brilliant student locked inside every student. And before you go, Doc, let me you know what I wrote on my notes here. I said, I'm that student. You know, I have no qualms in folks knowing my story, which they know. I'm 5 years in high school. You know, that's my story. I'm 5 years after high school of nothingness. That's my story, 10 years. But there was a brilliant student locked inside of me, but just needed to be unleashed. And once that guy was unleashed, I've been flying ever since. I'm a bird. I'm a
Yes.
I've been flying ever since because it was locked in, and I needed a mechanism to pull it out. And one of those mechanisms is in my hand right now, The Miseducation of the Negro. This wasn't the book that awakened me. This was the book that put me in the world. Right. So with that said, jump on in here, Doc.
Dr. Kafele, for me, there's a brilliant student locked inside of every child. That goes back to meeting that child where they are and providing them those opportunities that's needed for them to be successful. No two children are coming to us with the same experiences. No two children are coming to us with the same academic abilities, but all students can learn. And I truly believe that. But as an educational entity or educational system, it is up to us to provide those systems and put systems in place for students to be successful. For example, oftentimes we get caught up in curriculum and we get caught up in test scores. But like you like to say, little youngster. But if there's a little youngster that come and sit in front of Dr. L. Johnson, and little youngster don't even know their ABCs, how can I teach little youngster a 12th grade curriculum or 11th grade curriculum? What I need to focus on is meeting little youngster where they are, teaching him his alphabets, teaching him sight words. And when he learns sight words, then he would learn how to read. But we get so caught up in curriculum and test scores where we're leaving behind the child that we're responsible for teaching and educating because we're so busy trying to get the test scores to make our school look good or make us look good. But the work that I do every day is about making that child look good, making that child grow into an individual that can grow and succeed in life. And I'm very passionate about the work that Marvin Collins did, and it is something that resonates within me.
You know, your passion came through loud and clear as you expressed that too. And I'm with you. I will stand on, you know, there's a million different ways people approach equity, and I will stand on mine as long as I can stand on my own. When I say meeting the children or meeting young people where they are as they are, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm with you loud and clear on that one. A fan, before I go to see if Dr. Griffin has anything, young Principal Kafele, you've heard me say this many times, those of you who've been rocking with me for the 4 years we've been on here. Young Principal Kafele is in all of your schools, bar none. All of your schools. That youngster that's just not getting it done. But with the I've written 15 manuscripts, y'all. Published 13 of them, 13 books. 14 is coming in December. 15 is sitting on this computer, and I'm sitting on it right now. I've written 15. This is the youngster that spent 5 years in high school. I've written 15 manuscripts, right? So don't tell me that because that youngster is underperforming or exhibiting undesirable behavior or poor attendance or whatever the variables are or the indicators are, don't tell me that there's not greatness in that youngster. But I'm asking you, I'm challenging you, is it something about your leadership, not just you the leader, but something about your leadership that may help a teacher to help that youngster to unleash the greatness that is lying dormant within that youngster? Because it's there. There's no youngster that doesn't have that greatness lying within. But if it's not unleashed, they may take it to the cemetery with them. Mm-hmm. So that's where we come in, right? So I think my passion came through with yours, Doc. You got any thoughts on that, Dr. Griffin?
No, as she was talking, I was just thinking about one of my, when I was an assistant principal, there's this young lady, man, who just known skipping school will go off at the drop of a hat. She was about that life with ease. She was, and then I bonded with her and connected with her. And long story short, for the sake of time, towards the end of the year, no referrals, no fights, wasn't skipping school. And I said, Deja, what changed? You know, she by the end of the year called me dad. I called her. Everybody knew she was my favorite student. And I held her to a higher standard. And this is what she said her senior year. She says, no one ever told me that I could do something other than what I was doing. No one ever told me that. So what if the difference between what we're seeing them do and what they're not doing is just telling them that there's an option, that there's something else. And so she went off to graduate, and there are different moments in her life. She's doing well, independent. We went furniture shopping a couple of years ago, but it started with, man, this dude is telling me that there's an option beyond what people expect me to do. So if I'm feeding what they're telling me to do, I'm good. But now you're telling me there's something different, and that's jacked me up in a good way. So yeah,
that's us. That's those relationships. And that's the relationship we have with staff, in terms of staff being able to turn kid right to that young. So important, so important. We're almost done, y'all. Let me go to this next one here. We Dr. Griffin. Let's see where we at here. Here we go. You said that the impact of here's another y'all was doing some stuff at me. The impact of minority representation in educational leadership for minority students and majority students. You know, a lot of times, folks, we talk about the minority, Black and brown particular representation in the classroom, but I like where you approached it. You said the leadership. So what are you telling us here?
Yeah. So
how do we change it?
You said, how do we change what specifically? Like,
so what are you saying? And then how do we increase it?
Yeah. So I think that, so a couple things, and I referenced it earlier. My being and the one who's in charge of a building, what that does to exposure. We've talked about that, what it does to our expectations, and then what's possible. But I also think that when we are principals, we can't underestimate what is possible, like what is normal in that building. So it's a perfect excuse for me to have certain conversations or to push certain things or to prioritize certain things because I am there. I think it's so easy. There's a personal element to how we lead. And if we don't think that's true, then we're being negligent. So if I know I didn't see myself in education, if I know my concern for my Black son, if I know what I desired when I was a teacher on a very personal level, now that I'm in that big seat, do something about it. Like, do something about it. I think that what we can do, Principal Kafele, what we can do, I think that, and this is, I'm only speaking from my context, I think that there is this fear attached to double consciousness, like, man, like everything, this concept called spotlight anxiety. And it's very fascinating. Like everything that I do as a minority, I feel like the gatekeeper. The mistakes I made will be associated to the color of my skin and not just me being human. And I think that when that's the culture of a district, and that then creates a mood of I'm fine, I don't feel safe enough to make mistakes, I'm gonna just stay where I am.
Yeah.
I think that we need to capture the culture and the climate of the districts we belong to, where again, do I have the grace? Do I have the support to do what's necessary for all of our kids if I transition into this seat and do what needs to be done? I think fear of double consciousness, fear of not being supported, fear of failure, all of those things keep us from those seats, because y'all know, like I do, depending on where you are, the mistakes that you make, they could be detrimental for sure.
Yeah, that's right. They certainly can be. So we got to be careful. We got like I said to a lot of people, we as leaders, we're a brand, and we have to protect that with every fiber of our being. We got to guard it. We got to shield it, right? Because when you violate it, you may not be able to get it back. Yep. So last ones. Start with Dr. Johnson. You said as academic leaders, we must be willing to take risk for our students. What kind of risk do you mean?
When I say that we must be willing to make the decision that has not been made before. Think about the students that we serve. And we must be willing to ask the hard questions for the students that we serve. We must be willing to go that extra mile for the students that we serve. We must be willing to do the unknown thing or make the unpopular decisions. And I think oftentimes as leaders, we get caught up into doing what everybody else is doing or making decisions the way that they want us to make them, for fear of losing a position, or for fear of not being liked, or for fear of being questioned. But my thing is, make that decision, take the risk when it comes to dealing with your students, and then justify why you make that decision. And if your unpopular decision is not liked, it's okay, because I've been in this profession a long time. And I've seen leaders that have operated and they took the risk, and their opinions and their decisions were not popular. But the same leader ended up being a trendsetter. And those unpopular decisions that he made, lots of people are making those decisions now because he was brave enough to take the risk, make those decisions, say what is not being said, ask the hard questions that need to be asked.
I love it. I mean, and that's one of the characteristics that distinguishes one leader from another, whether it be education or whatever. That leader that has the audacity, the daringness, take risk, right?
And I will tell you, I am that leader that have the audacity to say the thing that everyone else is afraid to say. Yeah. I am that leader that has the audacity to ask the hard questions.
That's it. That matters. That matters. In fact, that deserves me to take the mirror and holler at fam real quick. Hey, fam out there. Again, I'm never going to be reckless on this platform, but I will ask you, are you willing to take risk where they're going to benefit staff and students, right? Because sometimes we got to take those risks. I mean, see, if we operate in a safe space all the time,
yeah,
that's right.
Then I don't know how we bring about the change. I say this on this platform so much, that there are people in history that we celebrate and honor, and there are others that we don't pay any attention to. And the ones that we typically celebrate were the ones that took the risk. We love Dr. King. Well, the man lived a life of risk. We love Malcolm. He lived a life of risk. We love the Mary McLeod Bethunes. We love the Shirley Chisholms, and I can go on and on of these people who live these lives of risk taking, right? So it boils down to, who are we going to be? Of course, I've named people who were activists in the community versus leaders in an organization where they receive their salary. However, we're in those positions in many cases because of the people who sacrificed outside of these schools, right? So here we are in them. What are we going to do once we get in them? We're just going to uphold status quo, or are we going to facilitate change, right? And facilitating change requires some degree of risk taking, and I certainly took my share of risk over the years that I was a teacher and a principal, including what I said to you about an hour ago when I had that conflict with that teacher over the miseducation of the Negro. My appointment was the next week. I could have jeopardized it.
Wow.
The next week. I've been fighting for this job all this time, going to school, and now here I'm getting ready to get my dream job, the assistant principalship, and I'm somewhere having a public feud with a colleague over the dissemination of the miseducation of the Negro. I have zero regrets about it. Zero. I took a risk.
It was necessary.
It was necessary. And the funny thing is, all those kids now, they're in their 40s. And some of them still reach out to me on Facebook and applaud me. Because everybody saw it. Right? It was one of them things where it happened on the spot. The students hadn't been dismissed yet. You slammed it on my desk and called me a racist in front of all these kids. I got to respond to you on the spot. Because the children are watching. They're watching this old teacher, this giving them all this stuff every day, but it's all theory because it's in the classroom with the students. Now you've been confronted in front of us. What you gonna do now, buddy? I had to demonstrate it. Let's go. I got one more. Dr. Griffin said the principal as the thermostat.
Yeah.
And what are you telling us?
Yeah, man. I guess I can, if I may, pose a question to the assistant principal, the aspiring assistant principal or principal. And I guess this is a question that I thought about often. How does my attitude or disposition affect what people perceive as acceptable because of me? And when you think about someone's connection or disconnection is because of our attitude, our mindset, that hit different. So I guess I just, because we've talked about this and culture and climate, we've jumped around, talked about so many great things, but answering that question, how do people's perception of how they belong to a space is because of our attitude and mindset as the leader?
Yeah. I had written in my notes, I said, I don't even have a question for that one, because any question that I have, it's in your statement.
Yeah.
Principal as thermostat.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Right. So
Yes.
hey fam out there, whether you be assistant principal, aspiring, superintendent, wherever you are you that thermostat? At the end of the day, are you that thermostat? You know, Doc, somewhere along the way, Dr. Griffin, before we go to the impact questions, and these are real quick, somewhere along the way, I got sidetracked, probably by something that you said in that, because I had a question I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to know that there are a lot of superintendents that tune in. You know, they're in and out. I'm not going to say they're watching every Saturday, but they're in and out when they watch the video. So Dr. Griffin, that minority representation in the leadership, what would you say to a superintendent out there who's watching right now live, or who will see the video later in the week or today? What would you say to that superintendent about increasing minority, and let me be very specific, Black male principal representation in their given school districts? What would you say in terms of if they said, I don't have the candidates, I don't see them? What would be your response?
Man, I think that's a multi-tiered question for sure. I think that depending on where you are geographically, depending on, again, the culture and climate of that district, there's so many things. But I think just like the principal has to go make the effort to say, no, you can come here. Like the reason there weren't Black teachers at my fault, there weren't Black teachers at the school where I was at, is because there were assumptions that I can't fit in there. But I put in forth the effort to say, nah, like, because this is what's important to us, come give it a try. Yeah. And I think the superintendent, to some degree, has to be intentional. Like, if this is a deficiency, if this is a blind spot, then it has to become a sense of focus. One of my favorite athletes is Michael Jordan, you know, and when you study him, when you look at him, he became the GOAT on both sides of the ball because he knew where he was lacking. So he put in the work to say, all right, I can score, I can bust your head anytime. But on the defensive end, I need to turn it up a notch. As a superintendent, if you know this is a deficiency, that means we got to try harder, do something different to reach across the aisle and say, I know you may be leery, you may be reluctant, but here's what I'm on and here's what I can do to help you. And being deliberate about being that support. Don't just hire them and walk away. Thank you. That's good. Don't just hire them and walk away and expect them to figure out. And that's new teachers, that's new administrators, new principal, a principal of color. Say, I see you and I'm here. First 6 months, first semester. How can I be a resource to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, y'all, let's transition to the BAM impact questions. These are one word answers or maximum one sentence. If you feel yourself inserting a comma, you've gone well over, right? Here we go. I'm gonna start with Dr. Johnson. Is education on the right path for underserved children today?
Yes.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes, it can.
Does Dr. Lawanda Johnson's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
It does, and always will.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
It would be the same. There's
Why
no other work that I'd rather do.
Why do you continue to do this work?
I love children and love seeing them succeed.
What particularly fires you up within the work that you do?
Seeing the light bulb in children come on.
What do you absolutely love about this work?
The opportunity to know that I have been a part of making a child succeed.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
The part I dislike the most is when I have to suspend a child and tell them and take them away from the academic environment.
What has been your greatest victory in this work thus far?
My greatest victory has been allowing all students to know that I care, I believe in them, and I'm here for you.
And what has been your greatest mistake in this work?
My greatest mistake has been second guessing myself and the things that I can do in this profession.
Excellent. Dr. Griffin, what has been your greatest challenge in this work?
Knowing when and how to fight the certain battles that are necessary.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
No question.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
No question.
Who inspires you in your work?
I got a 9-year-old son that lets me know there's work to be done so he can be good.
What are you reading right now? It could be a book, but it doesn't have to be anything. An article, blog, tweet, whatever.
Okay, I chew on lots of things because I have different responsibilities: relational intelligence, necessary endings, and doing church as a team. Those are the 3 things I'm reading, nibbling on right now.
What book would you recommend for our viewers this afternoon?
5 Levels of Leadership.
I know that book too. Where'd I leave off? Okay. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
Writing that first book.
Are you satisfied with where you are professionally?
Negative.
What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Kick them down.
What could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Remember your why.
If Dr. Khalid Griffin was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Unicorn.
If Dr. Lawanda Johnson was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Audacity.
Audacity. I love it. Hey, y'all. For those of you who are new to the platform, let them know if this session resonated with you, if you found it was good, if it was something you could take back to your school, something you could adapt to your leadership, if it was just good content for you this morning. Give us your favorite emojis in the chat. Let us know. Just give us your favorite emojis and let them flow. And I'm gonna get my emoji out. It's my Louisville Slugger that I got from Jefferson County in Louisville, Kentucky. And this is good with my Grays alternate jersey. Josh Gibson, 800 home runs, hit it out the park, leading batter for the entire Major League Baseball once the Negro League records were merged into the Major League. So y'all hit grand slams, man. Every time you came to the plate, knocked it out the park. I see all the emojis. I appreciate that, y'all. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Folks, I'm sure that there are people on here that would like to stay connected to you via social media. If you do any type of speaking or consulting, I'm sure they'd like to invite you. So let them know how they can reach you. I'll start with you, Dr. Johnson.
You can reach me on my email at Lawanda Johnson 750 at gmail.com. You can reach me on Facebook platform at Lawanda Michelle. Like my name is spelled, it's just Lawanda Michelle. Do we give out phone number in here?
No, you don't need to.
No. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm always looking for opportunities.
There you go. There you go. Dr. Griffin.
Yeah. So Khalid Griffin, drop the doctor, Khalid Griffin at gmail.com. And if you need spiritual food, Redemption Church, Fort Wayne. That's we on YouTube and all platforms.
So in other words, that's the pastor right there.
Yes, sir. so Khalid Griffin at Gmail is educational. But if you need that spiritual food, Redemption Church, Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne, Indiana, y'all.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff. And let me say to the two of you, week 22-23 was a blast. This was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Enjoyed your company. Enjoyed learning from you, hearing from you, and you just blessing the platform. And you know you didn't come in the best of time because you came when I'm transitioning. So I'm definitely not going to have the exact same numbers, but I'm still anticipating over 1,000 on YouTube throughout the course of the week. So and that's a good thing. So a lot of people will get to hear you. We get far more views during the week than we do live. So a lot of people are still going to benefit from you. And I see all the emojis are still coming. So I appreciate that, y'all. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. You know, let me do my rundown, and you all stay on for me, and to the fam out there. Just let me first and foremost, as I always do, thank you for being here, particularly for switching over to YouTube with me, or not. Yeah, some of you switched. Some of you were already watching from YouTube, but others made this transition. I know it's a little different. The downfall is, as Dot Jeter just said, you all communicating to each other. But what you do with that, just put at the person's name, the at sign, and then the person's name, and they'll see it. And you can still engage. It's not going to be like Facebook, obviously, but you can still communicate with one another that way. Because I happen to do that when I'm watching somebody else. You know, I just put in the at sign into that person. They typically see it, and then there it is. There it is. So listen, y'all. Next week number 224, I got Andrea Terrera Gabadon. She's the author of this book here, Support and Retain Educators of Color. She's one of my colleagues at ASCD as far as publishing. So check her out with me next week. We're going to go one-on-one and talk about this book here. Typically when I have an author, then we go one-on-one because I'm just coming right out of the book. So join us next week for Andrea and myself at 10:55 ET Eastern Time right here on YouTube. Tell somebody this is our home now. Next week, Saturday, Facebook Live, Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock. He wasn't here today because he's out doing a training. Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor. That's Facebook Live. Me, 10:55 on YouTube. And then on Sunday, PDP Podcast with Josh Tovar and Dr. Moreno at 5 o'clock, Sundays, Facebook Live. All together, we make up what we call the Fantastic Four. 4 platforms, just giving a lot of information, unlimited information every Saturday and Sunday. You know my books, so I'm not going to show them again. It's late. I'm getting ready to watch some Olympics. But go to Amazon, put in Principal Kafele, and you'll see all the books there, the teacher books as well as the leadership books. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. We got 22,300 subscribers last time I checked. I'm blessed by that. But I want to keep increasing it. I really want to go to 100,000 subscribers, just like them celebrities. I'm not a celebrity, don't claim to be one, don't want to be one, but I want their numbers, right? So because that way I know that there's a lot of leaders tuned in, or aspiring leaders tuned in to get this knowledge, right? To get this information. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and be a subscriber, and hit the notification bell so that you'll know that when I go live, because I might go live on times. It's not the regular time because I got something to say, right? So hit that notification bell. And if you haven't hit that like button yet, hit that like button, man. That's how we get them algorithms, man. Because you know how they work. you know, when I go to YouTube, anytime, any day, what's going to pop up is all the stuff I typically look at, which is sports and hip hop. Yeah, I said hip hop. I keep up with the hip hop world because I'm an educator. So anything hip hop comes on my screen, and that's how I know that's the algorithms steer all that hip hop stuff to me and all the sports stuff to me, because that's the kind of things I watch on YouTube. Again, because I don't want to throw someone off. It's not that I'm opposed to hip hop. It's just that that's not my primary choice of music, but I got to know the genre because I'm an educator, right? All right, enough said on that. And then lastly, your diet, your exercise, and your virus precautions. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, because if you're not taking care of you, then who's going to take care of the kids? It's not going to be you. It's going to be your replacement, right? Visit principalkafele.com and also like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. The commentary will return in September. So like and follow. We got 10,000 followers right now. Let's increase that, and I'll be writing that commentary every week. Other than that, folks, appreciate you. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. I'm coming to 5 cities this week. Maybe I'll be in yours. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam!
Boom.
I'll see y'all next week for week number 224. Y'all stay on for me.